All right. All right. Well, welcome. We're going to talk today about introduction to Drupal page building using blocks, paragraphs, and what's coming soon, which is Experience Builder. So what we'll go over today is I'll just tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do, what blocks are, and then this is going to be more of a demo where I'm going to be doing some live demos, both of blocks and layout paragraphs as page builder options. And at the end, I'll have some time for questions. So really the topic today is how do we build more complex pages in Drupal. So just a little bit about myself. I've been working in the government space for about 13 years. I worked for federal government contractors for the National Toxicology Program and then National Institute of Environmental Health Science. That's a mouthful. Where we did major redesigns of both of those websites while I worked there and led those projects. And since 2020, I've been working for North Carolina Department of Information Technology, which there's a AWS-hosted Drupal 10 multi-site platform called Digital Solutions that the state of North Carolina has. And we host 85 state agency websites for pretty much all the major agencies on Drupal. That was started in 2014 as a Drupal 7 platform. It took us 3 or 4 years to migrate 67 sites to Drupal 8 when that. You're actually getting it at a great time because it was a very big transition from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. And then in 2022, I actually did the portal redesign for nc.gov, where we wrote a modern theme for that. So what is a block in Drupal? So a block is basically a chunk of content, a block of content. So if you imagine just anything on a page, that's what a block is. And you can find blocks by going into the admin. So if you go into the admin, you go to structure, and then content, and then blocks. So this is where you find blocks in the admin. And so Drupal has what is called a basic block, which if you go to add block content, there's this basic block here, which is basically a description field, and then a body field or a text field where you can add anything you want. You can add HTML, images. If you use full HTML, you can actually add, some scripting elements there. So that is, let me just kill. There we go. So that's basically what a block is, and where you find them. So the next thing to know about blocks is that blocks have regions. So a theme for Drupal has a region in it where you can place these blocks. And so every theme has different regions. Like you have a header region, you can have a footer region, you have a content region, you can have a sidebar region, and the number of regions and what they're called will vary based on the theme that you install with Drupal. And you can see a demo of where these regions are by going to block layout. And right here at the top it says demonstrate the regions. So I've got the Olivero theme installed, and here you can see these are all the places where you could place a block of content that you create in Drupal. So let's do just a basic block, creating a block. So here's if you go back to content blocks in the administrative menu, and you do add to content block, like I said here, You go to blocks, and you go add content block. Say I want to do a contact block where we have, say we want to have Drupal camp. We have it on Main Street, Asheville, North Carolina, and I do not know the zip code here, so we'll make one up. And then you have a phone number for contact. So here I just created a basic contact block. And we save it. So now we have, now we see that there. So the next thing we want to do is, okay, how do we place this block into one of the regions? So we go back up to what I was showing you before, the block layout. And we want to put that block down here at the footer. So you hit the place block. Here's the contact block we just created. And don't want to do display title. We'll talk in a moment about all the different ways you can configure this. And we save the block. Now this contact block is now going to, once we hit save here, will appear at the bottom of every page. Here's the block we just created. So that's how we placed it. So let me pause for a second. Any questions so far? Yeah, so that's basic. That's basic blocks 101 and how you create blocks in Drupal. So just with that, you can do a lot in Drupal in terms of being able to create, different pieces of content or chunks of content that you could put on the Drupal site. And you can see how you can put it in the different places on the site. So suppose we want to restrict that so it only shows up in certain places. So if you go back to block layout, and let's go back down to our contact block. You see here it is in the footer top, and you hit the configure. Now what you're going to see here under block configuration, which is actually my next slide here. Oh, wait a minute. That's adding block to the region. I'll just let that. Here in block configuration, you see that you can configure where blocks are displayed by setting up a number of different options. So you can have a block that's displayed, say you want a page not found block, you want to create that, you could check this off. If you want it to only show up when there's a successful response, it's another way you can do it. This is the most common, is setting it up to be restricted to certain pages. So say I really want this block only to show up on the About page, which I think I have an About page on the site. So you would just put in the path and make sure that it's checked to say show for the listed pages. Or you could do the opposite, which is hide it from every page except for the About page. So let's save that block. Let's go back to, you see the block has now disappeared on the home page. It's also not being displayed on the news page, but whoa, there it is on the About page. So so that's one way you can configure blocks to show up only on certain pages. So other configuration options are, you could have it only appear for certain users, like if you're logged in. I only want logged in users to see this. You can also do it by content type, like I only want this to appear on articles, so you can restrict it by particular content types. And there's also a vocabulary option, which is used with taxonomy terms and views for showing blocks. So there's a lot of configuration, power in how you can use blocks. The last thing to really know about blocks is suppose you want to configure a block where your users don't have to know a lot about HTML in order to create blocks. You want to have a pre-configured set of fields where you could put in a title, text, say an image, a link. We have in Drupal what are called block types. And basically these are like mini content types that you can place in a page. So say I want to create a content call to action or a CTA with an image. So I'm going to create that block type. Now on this I want to be able to, I want an image, so I'm going to add an image or media field. And down here I'm going to check image as the type of media that I want to be able to be added through this field. I'm going to save that. And then I want to use the link field. I actually already created a link field for a CTA I created without an image. So we're going to add that as well. So now we've got a block that a user can fill in that has a text field, an image field, and a link. So here's the form that where this controls how the form looks for the user that's filling out things. And then I want what's going to be actually displayed on the page is under Manage Display. So I want the image to appear at the top and the link to be at the bottom. So I'm going to save that. And now that we have this, if we go back to our block types, you'll see now that we have CTA with image as one of the options. So let's create an actual CTA with an image. Oh, actually, sorry. Here we go, wrong place. Add a content block, CTA with an image. So now this is what a user can just fill this in instead of having to create all the HTML. So we can say sign up. And here is a beautiful picture of waterfall somewhere in Nashville. And then we're going to do sign up and okay, so I just created that sign up block. Now, one of the things that's really handy is sort of a, if we just look at that block now, we're not going to see anything that's really formatted all that well. One of the things you can do is if you install the field group module, which if you go under extend and make sure that you have field, if this module is installed, what that does is it allows you to actually add HTML elements into your managed display on your blocks. So let me show you what that looks like. So we go back to manage display under the block we just created. This is field group button. If we say I want to add an HTML element, and so we're going to do a wrapper for this, which is just a div, and I want to add a bunch of CSS classes. Now I've added another custom block, and this is a basic Drupal 11 site install. I'll show you in a moment a custom block that I just added. The custom block that I've added has some styles already put into it, and it also is bringing in the Bootstrap style library. So if we add these classes to the field group down here, we can style this.
You need to take the word classes off of your...
Oh, did I? Yep. Good catch, thanks. didn't see that I copied that. That will not help. All right. So that's going to put in that div wrapper. If you know HTML, that's going to create a wrapper around it and add a bunch of styles to it. So that allows you, what that does is that allows you to be able to do some styling without actually having to hit the templating layer of Drupal, which is a whole nother talk about how do you do theming in Drupal, which is not a beginner level thing. So let me show you just quickly the other block that I added in here that you'll see, you'll just know where the styles are coming from. So up here at the top, there's a styles block. If we edit this block here, you won't see anything, but if you go into the source view, you see that I'm just pulling in the Bootstrap library, and I've added a CTA block. So you can actually add CSS styles, without having to add them to the style sheet. This is kind of a workaround.
Can you use those for meta tags? Or do meta tags have to be in the head?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure meta tags would have to be in the head, and I think all these blocks are going to get rendered inside the body.
Yeah.
So let's put this all together. Now, suppose you want a multi-column layout on your page. That is where you need Layout Builder. So Layout Builder is something that comes it comes as a part of core, but it's not turned on by default. So if you go to Extend, and this is the Extend tab, shows you all the modules that are in Drupal that you have installed currently. So if you go, you'll see Layout Builder, and you have to make sure that that's checked for Layout Builder to show up as an option. So make sure the first step is making sure that you've enabled Layout Builder. The second step is that you have to go to one of your content types and add it as an option on that content type. So I'll just show you. Here's a layout page, a new content type that I created so that I could use Layout Builder. And then when you go to Manage Display, you'll see these options that you have to check off. If you want to be able to use Layout Builder as a way of formatting your page layout on a particular content type, you check off the first box, which is Use Layout Builder. And that now you're no longer using the Manage Display, you're now using Layout Builder. If you want that layout to be able to be changed on a per content type basis, so every single layout page has a different layout using different blocks in it, you check the second, which is allow each content item to have its layout customized. So those are the two steps you have to go through. Make sure it's installed, and then make sure it's enabled on a content type. Now you can use Layout Builder. So what Layout Builder does is it allows you to build more complex page layouts. So we're going to build a landing page that has multiple columns in it. So when you create a page, now you have this Layout tab. If you've got Layout Builder enabled on a page, you're going to see this tab called Layouts. And once you go in here, you're going to see that you can now add blocks and sections. Now, sections are where you get your columns. So if you click a section and say, I want a one-column section, or just one, you can click that, and you don't necessarily need to add a label to it. That's just for your own internal use. So now in this section, I want to create a content block, and in this one, I just want an image, and you always uncheck display title unless you want the title actually show up above your block. Sometimes you might want that. So in this, I want to put an image at the top of the page. So I'm going to add, I do have to put a title in here, so we're going to call this the hero. So So add that block. Now beneath that I want to have a 2-column layout. So now I've got 2 columns. On the left side I want to have another image block where and here I want to use my little waterfall again. And then on the other side, I want to be able to put in some text. So I'm just going to do a basic block and come over here, get some good lorem ipsum. Drop that in. Now I've got an image, text next to each other. Now on the next section, I want to have a 3-column layout where I want to add some CTA cards. So here, let's do just a basic CTA card where and I want to format that to be heading tag, and then I want to put some text after it. And I don't want that much text. And I don't want it to be heading. I actually want this just to be a paragraph. I need more space between that. But anyways, you get the idea. And then at the bottom, we want to have a link for more info. And I'll stop there. You could put one of these in each of these blocks. So go up here to save the layout. And now we've got a multi-column Drupal page that has, this is a more complex layout. Just to show you one that's it's got like 3 CTAs in it. So that shows you how you can use Layout Builder as a way of getting different column layouts on a page. Any questions so far?
Yeah, this might be getting a little bit into the weeds, but like if we wanted to do some more like dynamic, for instance, if I was loading different content, it may be of the same content type, but
yeah.
It might have like dynamic set of columns. Might have more.
Yeah.
This article might have more things to show. It might need 5 columns, whereas another of the same content type might have 3. Is Layout Builder good for that, or would that be something?
No, yeah, I think Layout Builder, there might be modules that do that. Now, Layout Builder has a lot of supporting modules that you could install with it. And one of those modules might give you that kind of capability. But out of the box, it's pretty, you get different layouts. Now, you could put some additional layouts in there, something that has 25% in one column. You could create those layouts. But as far as I know, now I'll have to be honest, my background is mostly in paragraphs because when we, at the state of North Carolina, back five or 6 years ago, Layout Builder wasn't fully baked yet. So we went with paragraphs, and so I know a lot more about that, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. So there may be things that I don't know along those lines. But let me actually show you paragraphs now as an option, because that won't do what you're talking about right out of the box either. That's where you start to get into some custom modules or custom scripting. Probably you'd use JavaScript, or I probably could use React for that as well. All right, so we just talked about block types and Layout Builder. There is a really good Drupalize Me tutorial, Introduction to Layout Builder. So if you pull down the slides for this, you can hit that link or go to that link at Drupalize Me or just search for that. So layout paragraphs is another option. And as I said, this is something I'm more familiar with because we've used at the state of North Carolina paragraphs. Now the nice thing about paragraphs is that you really only need 2 modules to install to get what I'm about to show you. It's the paragraphs module and then the layout paragraphs module. And once you've got those installed, you just need to add a paragraph reference field and then configure the managed form display and the managed display, and then make sure you enable a specific paragraph called a layout or section paragraph. So let's walk through that just so you can see how simple that is. So the first step would be to go and make sure that you install, and you would do that with Composer. You do a Composer require. So paragraphs. So you have the paragraph is the basic module. Layout paragraphs is a module that expands and adds layout capabilities to paragraphs. There's another module that you can install where you can get pre-built paragraphs. There's actually one for blocks as well. It's a little, it takes a little more effort to configure it, but extra paragraph types is a module that you can install, and you can get some basic paragraphs already pre-built that will just work out of the box. Make sure you install the core first, otherwise some things won't work like images. So make sure the extra paragraphs core is installed. So first step is installing that, and then the next thing you need to do, now that paragraph's installed, you'll see that you now have a paragraph types. So you'll need to go and create a paragraph type that, call this layouts. I've already created one called sections. And then you just say use layout paragraphs, and then you pick the layouts that you want to be available. So this is a layouts paragraph that will now give you 1, 2, 3 column, 4 column. That's all you have to do to create the layout paragraph. That's the first step, which will allow you to choose how many columns you have. Then the next thing you have to do to enable it is go to one of your content types. So say you want to use paragraphs on your basic page type. You create a new field. You add a paragraph field. Oh, wait a minute, did I? And you also have to choose which paragraphs you want to be available in that field. So create the paragraph field, choose the paragraphs available. Then you just have to change in these two, in the form display, on that paragraph field that you just created, you want it to use layout paragraphs as the widget that renders it for the user that's entering data. And then on the display side, you also want to have layout paragraphs picked as a format that's rendering it. That's all you have to do to make layout paragraphs work. Now, Layout Builder has a lot of additional modules, and we'll talk about that at the end, but there's a lot more configuration that you have to install things to get it to be really user-friendly. So once all that's set up, you can go to Add Content, add your basic page. This is my basic page using paragraphs. And here's your paragraph field. Now, I want my layout now I want to have a one-column layout, because in this one-column layout, I want my image. And that image that I wanted to use is this beach image. Okay. There we go. We got our full. Now we say, okay, but I want to, below this, I want another layout which has 2 columns. And in this 2-column layout, I want the image on the right. So, oops, I don't want that. I just want to. This image on the right, I want this image. Save. Now I got an image on the right. Now over here on the I want a text field on the left. Want to that is way too much text. So I'm going to get rid of half of that, and I think make sure that's a paragraph. And now at the bottom, I want to do another layout that's a 3-column. And I want a call to action. So in the call to action, I want to do sign up. Do a little bit of text here. I want my beat boat, because this is in Nashville. Yeah, of course I have boats. The URL for about, and then something's broken there, but so here we have a basic page that we just created, and I didn't. You know what? When I copied and pasted that, it brought in the style. So you just saw basically recreating the same kind of a page using layout paragraphs. So from my personal experience, I thought that second option was a lot more intuitive and user-friendly. What do you guys think? Jim?
When you're doing searches, like the search and replace scanner or something like that,
Yeah.
These are their own content type, right? So you'd have to specify look in that kind of thing when you're looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The content type has a field on it that's where the paragraphs get placed versus the blocks getting placed in the layouts from Layout Builder.
It's really nifty though.
Yeah. And so here's a page I pre-created just using paragraphs. And I don't know why the button wasn't working on the one I just created. Joys of live demos, you know. So that kind of shows you the similar experience using Layout Builder versus using layout paragraphs. The paragraphs module was developed earlier, so before Layout Builder really took off. So there's a pretty robust ecosystem for paragraphs out there. So if you go to the paragraphs page on Drupal, and then the good thing to know is this paragraphs are projects that extend this. Like if you click on that link when you go to drupal.org/project/paragraphs and you click on that link, you'll get a whole list of all the different, and you'll get this for blocks as well. And then you can see like extra paragraph types that you can install or that are available there. So just as a kind of a comparison, of Layout Builder versus layout paragraphs, kind of pros and cons, like if you're going to choose one of these two options for being able to have multi-column page layouts. Layout Builder is in core, so you don't have to install anything. You just have to check the box under Extend tab, and it's there available for you to use. It comes with access control. On the con side, I think the UI is a little more confusing. You know, it's not like you're not looking at exactly what you're editing. You got the column thing over here with this big list of, you know, things underneath it that can be a bit confusing. Out of the box, there's no revisions for Layout Builder blocks. Now, you can install a module, and there are a lot of different modules that you can install to modify Layout Builder to get it to do a lot more. And there's some great talks that you can go and Google. But as I've watched some of these talks over the years, you know, figuring out what modules do I need to install to get it to do what I want, you know, can be a little daunting. And it has a very large module ecosystem with it, about 152 modules that are available to expand Layout Builder. But there's a lot more, you know, kind of configuring and installing to get it to do something that's, you know, more user-friendly. Now, on the layout paragraph side, the initial setup is a little bit more complex, but as I just showed you, I walked through in under 5 minutes how to configure a content type and set it up so you could use paragraphs. So it's not that much more complex. Layout paragraphs follows the structured data model of Drupal, which means that everything basically is a field. It's a structured type of data. So paragraphs is really just another field, you know, of data in the database. It also supports nesting, which means you can have paragraphs inside of paragraphs, you know, so that you could put, you know, you could have a 2-column layout with different elements inside of the first paragraph. And really, as I just showed you, you really only need 2 modules installed to get a fairly decent user experience and user interface. So I think it's a little bit easier of an ecosystem. So that's, you know, that kind of is a comparison. If you were diving in brand new to this, you know, that kind of gives you the 2 options that you could get going out of the box. You pick the one that looked, yeah, easier to use to you. What's coming next year, though, is going to really change how Drupal, we do page building in Drupal, and it's Experience Builder, which Mike Herschel is actually doing a talk right now on that. I'll have a link on my last slide, which off of my website, that has a link to a talk that one of the contributors that's actually building Experience Builder. He does a whole talk on what it is and how it works. So it is coming next year. It'll use single directory components and blocks. So if you're starting out with blocks now, or components that are based on paragraphs, those should be able to be imported, hopefully, into Experience Builder. But you will be able to install an Experience Builder, as I was telling you earlier, Robert, is going to be React. It's going to be React components. So if you know React, like, you're going to be in really good shape for being able to use it once you install it. And it should be able to be installed side by side with other things like paragraphs or blocks, you know, so you can install it and use it side by side. So that's coming, and I kind of just mentioned that here at the end to say, you know, in about a year, you're going to have a much more powerful option for being able to build pages. So, well, I'm going to leave a little bit of time here. Any questions? That's my contact information up there, and on my website, Colebank.com, Drupal Camp 2025, I've listed a couple of these modules we talked about, and also a link to Laurie Timoney's talk at DrupalCon this year that talks about Experience Builder. I would watch that talk. So, how was that?
So, with both Layout Builder and Paragraph Layout, do both of those work within the block structure that you've set up in the site, or can Layout Builder actually, I don't want to say break, but can it kind of modify those regions that you define, like in your theme?
The regions are only modified in the template and the theme. So, have you ever done any theme building? Or yeah, so a theme has an info file in it at its root level, and in that info file, which is a YAML file, you have all your regions defined. So if you add a region in there, it'll show up in that block layout that we showed. So nothing can modify that unless you actually modify the theme file. So a theme comes with these predefined. You can't
I'm just
manipulate
wondering
that.
because usually because we have users at varying levels of technical expertise, we lock the crap out of our theme thing so users can't break the page
Yeah.
by setting up something weird. And I'm just wondering if both layout builder and paragraph layout, if both of them are basically equivalent in that neither will allow the user to kind
Well,
of burst out of the things, or
blocks are, you can lock down access, like we said, by roles with blocks. There's a module that we use on the state website where, and I forget what the module is off the top of my head. If you really want to know, email me and I'll. But what it does is it allows you to lock certain regions. So, like on the state website, we only allow content editors or web managers to edit the footer, for example. Like, we don't want them messing with the header.
Yeah.
You know, so we lock down access to, so they have different regions and they can only play with those regions. So I know that's more of a region level access restriction. I don't think you can do that in individual blocks, though we did see you can make blocks appear based on role, but I don't think you can make the access to it. I think there's a module though that you can install that will allow you to do that. Any other questions? Well, thanks. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, if you think of other questions afterwards, feel free to contact me.